different Deku, and by this I mean one thing. For the majority of the first season, he's treated as a side character. There's nothing really stand out about him. The only thing which really separates him from the other members of the class is the fact that he is one of 2 students who got in via recommendations, the other one being Momo. His quirk, half hot, half cold, is interesting enough, and we get a couple of glimpses of his power throughout the first season. One such instance is during the battle training class, which I said I'd refer to again, where he simply waltzes in and freezes the entire building, Toru, Ojiro, and the nuclear weapon in one fell swoop. The other instance that sticks in my mind is when he was teleported to that area full of villains in the attack on USJ, and he just freezes them all just instantly. So from these showcases, what is our initial impression of pre-Startline Todoroki? He's distant, he doesn't like people, and he's incredibly strong. So strong that even President Mike is absolutely flabbergasted at the seemingly non-existent ranges of his quirk. So he's your run-of-the-mill side character who's kinda just there, and that is true up until the second season. Todoroki receives some much-needed character development, and this starts with his declaration of war towards Deku before the events of the UA Sports Festival even get underway. The significance of this is that it shows that even though he was in the background for the majority of the first season, he was paying attention to what Deku was doing. It shows that Todoroki views Deku as an obstacle on his way to the top. It shows that he views Deku as a threat. This is further reinforced during the discussion that Todoroki and Deku have after the cavalry battle, where Todoroki makes the connection that Deku and All Might clearly have something going on. Throughout the course of the second season, we learn more and more about not only how Todoroki views his classmates, but about Shoto himself. At the beginning of the obstacle course, we're treated to another overwhelming display of Todoroki's fairly overpowered quirk, where he freezes all of the 0-point villains in one fell swoop, allowing him to be the first to break through and maintain a solid lead. But what's important here is not the act of freezing the robots, but what he says before doing so. At this point, there are some key differences between the English sub and the English dub which I need to outline. Before he unleashes his attack, Todoroki says, "If they went through all this trouble, I wish they would have prepared something better, since my stupid old man is watching." As far as the sub is concerned, what's more important here is what he actually says in Japanese and not the translation. Even though the subs read stupid old man, what he actually says is Kuso Yaji, which if you know Japanese or have watched enough anime, you'll know can be more accurately translated into fucking old man, shitty old man, or damn old man. Meanwhile, in the dubbed version, he says dear old dad. Now, people who watch the sub might not watch the dub and vice versa, so in order for my point to really come across, you should have a listen for yourself.
せっかくならもっとすげえの用意してもらいてえもんだな。クソ親父が見てるんだから。
They obviously went through a lot of trouble, but I wish they prepared something a little more difficult. Especially since my dear old dad is watching.
So there are no misunderstandings, I am not trying to incite a sub versus dub argument. The point I'm trying to make is that I believe the Japanese voiceover does a much better job of conveying the absolute contempt that Todoroki has for his father. And you know, we haven't even heard much about Todoroki's family. Like I said, he was mainly a side character for the first season. Why would you need to hear about a side character's family? So for the first thing we hear to be tinged with such vitriol, it speaks waves about how much he hates his father, Endeavor. And to be honest, who doesn't hate Endeavor? He's absolutely blinded by his desire to surpass All Might, so much so that he disregards his son as a human being, only really referring to him as a creation. On top of that, he married Shoto's mother only for her quirk, again, for the sole reason of surpassing All Might. And he's just a downright meanie who won't even have tea with Best Anime Dad? I mean, come on. I mean, the only evidence we have for why he's even the number 2 hero was his display of strength versus the Nomus during the attack on Hosu City. He may have gained a modicum of respect from me during that fight, but he's still a shit dad. I mean, come on, even Goku is a better dad than this guy. Anyway, that's enough about Endeavor. Let's move back to Shoto. Fast forwarding to the end of the cavalry battle, we are all aware of Todoroki's pledge, about how he swore to never use his left side in a fight. And yet, when faced with Deku's overwhelming assault, his left side unconsciously flares up, even if just for a moment, because of the threat in front of him, because of the power which he had felt before. Now, because of this incident, Todoroki later pulls Deku aside after the cavalry battle to explain to him more about his past, as well as his reasons for wanting to beat him. Todoroki makes a connection that there is something going on between Deku and All Might due to the similarity in their powers, which CU had pointed out anyway all the way back when they were first going to USJ, but this fuels Todoroki's desire to beat Deku even more. Now, so I don't get accused of storytelling, let me actually make a valid point using everything I've just said. Todoroki wants to be nothing like his father, this we all know. So much so that he refuses to use his quirk to its fullest extent in an act of rebellion, even if it puts him at a disadvantage. But for good reason. Because of everything his father did to his mother, Todoroki admits that in his memories she's always crying, and that the reason for his burn scar on the left side is because his mother threw boiling water at him because she couldn't handle that sight, which reminded her of Todoroki's father. In effect, all Todoroki's pain and anger were caused by the actions of his power-hungry father, and because of that, he intends to rise to the top, only using his mother's power, basically a big middle finger to Papa Todoroki. He even admits that the entire reason he declared war on Deku in the first place was because he wanted to show his father what he could achieve without his power. After their talk, Deku remarks that if this were a comic, Todoroki would be the main character, just because that's the kind of backstory he has. That's how you know a character's been developed. And that's the reason for his absurdly high DMI, of course! Oh my god, when I was factoring in all his values into the formula, I completely forgot to account for one variable. The MC button! Deku, the main character, remarks that he has the potential to be a main character. That, oh my god, that multiplies his initial DMI by an absurd amount. That is such a strong variable, and I completely forgot to include it. But I realize it now. I knew my genius wasn't flawed. Fuck yes. Because of the nature of his quirk, you may have noticed that I always say mother's power or father's power instead of just Todoroki's power as a whole, which encompasses everything. There's a reason for this, and it's because it's something he does himself. Whenever he mentions his own power, he never acknowledges it as his own. It's always his power or her power or something along those lines. And his refusal to accept his father's flames as his own may be more of a self-imposed limitation than he thinks. There's a reason I mention this, and it's because we're finally getting to the crux of Todoroki's section, his start line. In episode 23, Shoto Todoroki Origin, we experience one of the most hyped matchups since the beginning of season 2, Deku versus Todoroki. Even though the fight itself is amazing, animation and all, the fight itself acts as a vehicle for a very important thought exchange. Remember earlier on in Deku's section when I said the thought exchange between him and Shinzo could only be superseded by something else? This is what I was alluding to. Without diving into the nitty-gritty details of the fight, it reaches a point where Todoroki's body is recoiling from that lack of warmth due to him overusing the half-cold part of his quirk. Initially, it seems like Deku was just trying to goad him into using his full power just so they can have a fair fight. But as the bout progresses and Deku's own body begins to suffer from recoil due to One For All, it becomes increasingly clear what his true motives are. He's trying to get Todoroki to come to terms with his past. He's trying to save him. Deku makes him recognize that even though he inherited his fire powers from his father, they are by no means his father's powers. He makes him remember why he wanted to become a hero in the first place. All this culminates in one of the most glorious scenes in the anime, where he remembers who inspired him to become a hero in the first place, his mother. And then finally, his flames, Shoto's flames, erupt from his left side in a glorious, magnificent display of acceptance. Of course, once he sees the flames, we're treated to Endeavor's famous firegasm. He then starts spouting all kinds of bullshit about fulfilling desires and whatnot, and this is probably the only time I am ever going to agree with Endeavor on anything, but it's because he makes two very valid points during this moment. One is that Todoroki has finally accepted himself. This is very true, we wouldn't be seeing his flames if he hadn't. The other is that it all starts here. Now Endeavor of course is referring to his plans to have Todoroki surpass All Might, but he's right in saying not that, but that it all starts here for Todoroki. This is it. This is his start line. Once the UA Sports Festival reaches conclusion, Todoroki decides to go on a journey of self-rediscovery. After pretty much having his reasons for wanting to become a hero beaten back into him by Deku, he pays a visit to the hospital, not for his injuries, but to instead visit someone very dear to him. He visits his mother for what seems like the first time in years, the one person who reminded him that through thick and thin, on the journey to the top, he does not need to be a prisoner of blood. Hey guys, again, if you made it this far into the video, thanks again for watching, it means the world to me. Now, you may have noticed that this bit was a lot cleaner, honestly, than the previous part, and that's because when I decided to split this into 3 parts, Deku's bit, it suffered the most. Deku's bit had loads of exposition, it had that 5-minute segment on the DMI and whatnot, and Todoroki's didn't. Todoroki's was like a solid 8 to 10 minutes of pure analysis, and I hope you noticed that and the passion that went into that, and, you know, overall, of course, I hope you enjoyed it. Now, next up will be Bakugo section, that will be out in about a week. So again, if you enjoyed this video and you want to, you know, finish the little mini-series and you want to just see more of me, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. It means the world to me. Whenever I see that little number go up, it makes me happier than you could ever imagine. And of course, as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and like I just said, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.